In this video, I will show the best PvE only endgame deep desert content and farms that you can do. This includes the best ways as a solo to get tier 5 and tier 6 endgame schematics and other high-end resources and items. When it comes to endgame content in Dune Awakening, the deep desert is the place to get everything, and with the new update, half of the deep desert became a PvE area and is much more friendly than before for people who don't want to PvP. There's a companion app for the deep desert that is a must-have. I'll leave a link in the description because I highly recommend using it. On it, you can see a 9x9 grid of the deep desert and all the locations and materials in it. There's a legend on the left telling you what each symbol means, and then with the Coriolis storm, the map changes every week on Tuesday, and this app will almost immediately show new areas and locations of everything. It also shows the PvE area inside of this green square, as well as a countdown timer for the Coriolis storm. If you would like to, you can still survey every region, but I wouldn't recommend it because it would take you a total of 81 surveys every week. It's not a very fun time. I want to first go over one of the best PvE farms in the game right now for Duraluminum tier, otherwise known as tier 5, unique schematics and vehicle parts, as well as a great Solari farm. I like to call it the A row loot path. So when you first enter the deep desert, you'll be in A row. If you enter on the left side, you will spawn in at A2. A row consists of A1 through A9. Now for the loot path itself, if I plan on going for all 6 research labs, I start at the leftmost lab, usually in A1 or A2. Then clear each one out from left to right. If you think you will do this farm often, I would recommend at least surveying all of A row, so 9 cells in total. Within it are 6 PvE only research labs, which have shared loot. So no matter how many other people go inside, you are guaranteed all loot within. Each one has a final chest that gives you the tier 5 schematic with some spice infused duraluminum dust to craft it with. These respawn on a 45-minute timer, and I actually tested this after I grabbed one by waiting for the chest to spawn once more, then grabbing it, and then I timed how long it took for it to spawn again, which was 45 minutes. And this timer isn't based on when you grabbed it, it's a set timer for the server, so things can respawn even midway through going through the lab. The labs in A row are pretty much the same as the ones in Haga Basin, where you will have smaller crates with some Solari, capacitors, and cervix, as well as endgame materials like thermoelectric coolers, which are exclusive to Deep Desert. I still choose to grab these because the Solari adds up, but I don't go out of my way to check every single corner. Besides the unique chests at the end, what you want to look for are the bigger chests and lockers, which are also worth looting because they can have pre-made tier 5 vehicle parts and other important items. You also have the same mechanic where you need to find the colored band in order to progress further into the lab, so keep an eye out for those. There will be groups of enemies inside, so make sure you have at least T4 or aluminum gear. Any crowd control abilities from the Bene Gesserit class, such as Compel or Ignore, and Stunner from the Mentat class, work really well for splitting up groups and being able to focus on 1 or 2 enemies at a time instead of getting overwhelmed. You can also speedrun through the labs and completely ignore enemies, so up to you. And I also want to briefly mention that there are also shipwrecks throughout A row, but just like in Haga Basin, these are PvP zones and have instanced loot. So if somebody else grabbed the chest in between loot refresh, you won't be able to get it. I personally still check them out, but for the sake of the video, I want to stick to PvE only. Just know that if you want to take a peek at them while going through, they have their own schematic chests and other loot. After clearing out the labs on A row, these are the items I got. Between flying to each one and clearing them out, it usually takes around 30 minutes, so it's a pretty insane farm time-wise as well. If you choose to also do the wrecks, it takes longer, but if you're lucky and nobody else is running them at the same time, you can almost double the amount of schematics you get. All of this was from a run where I did the shipwrecks with the labs and was able to get every final chest from the wrecks, except 2. Another very important thing you should do is sell any extra items you don't want at the player market. It takes a while to learn the pricing, but vehicle parts and schematics sell pretty easily, and this will help you build up a large amount of Solari. Alright, now let's get into the recent changes they made to the further out deep desert and what you can do with only PvE. The PvE area now goes to the middle of E row, so halfway into the deep desert. The Coriolis storm changed the layout today, so there are currently 2 tier 6 research labs that can be done. The The companion app already has the updated locations, which are E2 and C7. Last week, we only had one lab in the PvE zone, so just know the locations and amount of labs on the map can vary. Because it is the highest level zone, enemies are pretty tanky and hit hard, so come prepared with at least T5 gear. It's the same kind of system as other labs where you go through, kill the enemies, find the colored bands, then make it to the end where you will get the unique chest. The final chest will have tier 6 schematics with some spice infused plastanium dust. You can also get tier 6 components such as advanced machinery and ballistic weave fabric. Within the PvE area, you get schematics from the crashed shuttles scattered around the deep desert. The Planetologist companion app I mentioned earlier shows the locations of where these can crash down. These shuttles do seem to have the same kind of schematics though, so I'm guessing they have a limited pull when it comes to them. These are also the best way to get a bunch of tier 6 materials in the PvE zone. Each shuttle has 3 spots in it that you can cut off with the cut array and grab everything. You do cause vibrations while doing this, so pay attention to the bar. Doing actions such as activating your shield or using your suspensor device will create very loud vibrations, so try not to do anything like that. If you hear or see the worm pop out, then jump back into your ornithopter and wait a little bit before returning if you weren't able to grab it all. You can also find small, medium, or large spice sand locations in the PvE half, but since this change, spice doesn't seem to be working correctly half the time. I've found several spice sand locations, but when I go to compact it, no spice sand piles will pop up. It'll just disappear. So I'm not sure if this is a visual bug or things just aren't working completely right now. For the spice, you basically just keep flying around until you see one or you see the actual eruption that happens when a new one spawns. Gathering the spice is the same thing as the shuttles, where you will cause vibrations while gathering it. It helps to compact and grab a couple at a time. There are also unique items such as soft step boots and certain unique compactors that attract the wormless as well, so you can get those if you would like. I like to bring an ornithopter with storage so I can hold more sand. When you hear the worm come up or the vibrations turn red on your screen, just fly up and wait for the worm to settle down, then resume farming the spice. With the latest map change, you can now find piles of spice sand in the PvE research labs. You can get a few hundred from this, so it's also a great way to farm the spice sand. Now you can do all of this in the PvE zone, but here's the catch. To actually craft any of the schematics or any tier 6 vehicle parts and gear, you need plastanium. For plastanium, you need to refine titanium and schematium ore, which can only be found in the PvP half of the desert. While it is very possible to quickly go out, grab some and get back without having to PvP, there is still a chance of getting into some kind of PvP encounter. And this is basically just Funcom trying to gently urge everyone to go out into the PvP area. It's actually pretty funny how subtly they did this. Personally, I don't mind going into the PvP areas, but I know most people just aren't interested in the PvP aspect of the game, which is very understandable. And frankly, if I'm being honest, the PvP is very mid in my opinion. But I come from FPS games, so most survival PvP just isn't really my thing. And as a solo most of the time, it definitely doesn't have the same satisfaction and enjoyment I felt from the entire PvE side of the game up to this point. So to wrap it all up, tier 5 can be completely done with only PvE. The first tier 5 loot path I talked about earlier is actually pretty enjoyable and feels rewarding. For tier 6, you can get a taste of it doing only PvE, but to fully reach the endgame gear, you will have to take the chance of PvP. I recommend at least trying it, and if it's not for you, then stick to only the PvE section. You could try to trade for it, or get someone to grab the titanium and schematium for you. If you enjoyed the video, give a like and subscribe. Any support is very much appreciated. If you have any questions or just want to let me know your opinions on the deep desert, leave a comment. As always, take it easy. Level Up signing out.